If there's water stress, wind stress, heat stress, that will tend to be a hotter pepper than one that was grown in the field next to it.
It was like a ticking time bomb. It would be fine, bad.
How does one measure a Scoville unit?
Moruga scorpion, 3 to 4 times hotter than a habanero. We put out fish oil, we put out bat guano.
What is the water that's required for chilies?
Great question. Water's gold.
You're working harder, you're applying more labor, and you're getting a lower yield.
I just learned something. That's a new one.
Yeah.
OG
Spice guy. Hey everyone, welcome back to the OG Spice Guy Show, where we dig into the real stories behind the world's boldest flavors, from the fields where they're grown to the businesses that bring them to your table. I'm your host, Jonathan Raju. We're coming to you from Palm Springs at the annual meeting of the American Spice Trade Association. Today's conversation is with Michael Barnes, Managing Director at Seco Spice, the New Mexico-based supplier of chili peppers for HQO. We've talked about chili peppers before, where they come from, the different varieties, the spice levels, but today we're going straight to the source to understand how they're grown and processed and what buyers should really know. And our listeners are getting a double episode today because HQO is also working with Seco to start growing bell peppers right here in the United States. Michael, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How did you get into the business and, talk about Edward and the family farm and just give us a background?
Sure. So Edward and I are both civil engineers by trade. Oh. We started working together just doing some civil engineering work at some of the dairies in our local area, runoff design and so forth for water. And then that we both just had an itch to start a business. He's got a few years on me, a little bit older than I am. Yeah. Had some experience in the chili industry growing up. And when I say that, Edward grew up on the farm, like in Hatch.
Okay.
His father's a farmer, his uncle's a farmer, his grandpa's a farmer, the family's farmers.
So let's talk about Hatch just for a quick second.
Sure.
A lot of people just know Hatch as a chili. Hatch is a place.
Hatch is a town.
Okay.
And Hatch chili comes from the Hatch Valley, which there's a valley. It's probably about 20 miles long, and it's an area.
Okay.
So it's not really a specific variety of chili. It's an area where Hatch chilies are grown.
I see.
So it can be mild, it could be hot. There's different, all kinds of different peppers grown in that valley.
Okay.
And we call them Hatch chilies. Now,
have you ever had a Hatch chili?
I think so, but now you have me questioning exactly which kind of chilies are Hatch and which aren't.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So you're saying Edward.
Well, and back to Hatch, I'll just keep going with that a little bit because there's a lot of marketing associated around that name, right? It's kind of like Vidalia onions or certain areas and a certain crop. So a lot of people push the marketing of Hatch peppers. But like you said, not a lot of people know that it's not a pepper. It's a region where multiple peppers varieties are grown.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So Edward grew up, his family they were chili farmers?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. They're farmers. They have about total about 800 acres or so.
Okay.
Just north of Hatch.
Okay.
And so he grew up farming, right? Dad, like I said, Dad was a farmer. Grandpa was a farmer. So he grew up in the farming side of it. And like I said, we were once in college and working together as engineers and both had an itch. I was looking for something to do. Now, I didn't start out being a pepper guy. Like I think I got a pretty good grasp on it now, but I didn't start out that way. But he essentially brought the farming knowledge and the contacts, right? Because you can't do much without contacts. Yeah. And so we formed a business 1996 and leased a pepper dehydrator.
So 1996 is when Seco Spice was born.
Yes,
okay.
Sir.
What does Seco mean?
Seco means dry in Spanish.
Okay.
Seco Spice, so dry spices.
Oh, very interesting.
We live in South Pasadena around the Arroyo Seco.
Yep.
Right? And so the dry river,
Yeah,
right?
sir.
I don't know that I knew that.
I didn't know. I never put
Why?
that together.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
an idiot.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So 96, you leased a dehydrator.
We leased a dehydrator.
What's a dehydrator?
So a dehydrator, we leased a belt dehydrator. There's different types of dehydration. So it's what it
Sounds
says.
like,
It's what it sounds like, right? We're taking a higher moisture raw material, peppers, like when they're fresh, just like a tomato, if you will. They're the same thing. They turn, like a tomato's green and it turns red. Peppers will be green and they'll turn red.
Okay.
And then when they're, for us, we were in the red market. Okay. And so once they turned red, there's a moisture content to it by percentage. And so you have to dehydrate that down enough to where you can powder it, which is typically around 5% by moisture.
Okay.
So we leased a belt dehydration facility and just started. And crazy story quickly, you would never guess like who our first customers were and how we actually got into
that was
the
what I was actually going to ask.
Okay.
Yeah. Who are your
did you
first
get into
customers?
this?
We had somebody approach us from South Korea.
Okay.
A South Korean. And he was here looking for peppers because kimchi, right? Kimchi is a big item in Korea, made with peppers that are typically spicy, certain heat level, Scoville heat units. And so he was here just in the area kind of looking for somebody. And he found actually Edward's grandfather, I believe. I can't remember exactly how we got in touch. But once we got in touch, then we had the dehydration plant. We're like, okay, we didn't quite know what we were going to do with the finished material. We just want to get started.
Yeah.
And so
that's the plight of the entrepreneur. Yeah.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And so our very first sale, I can vividly remember picking up the check because I thought it was so much money. Was $20,000. What we sold the first year.
Yes.
$20,000, and to a Korean company.
And you were doing red
based in LA.
chilies.
Right. We were doing the red peppers.
Okay.
That they used in the kimchi.
Okay.
Here in the U.S. versus having to bring it from Korea, which is what they were doing before.
Oh, so their kimchi was manufactured here in the
United
United
States. They were trying to do it
using
stateside.
your red
That
chilies.
was the idea.
Fascinating.
Right. So source things, stateside instead of bringing everything over.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how that was the start.
How it started.
And then it just evolved from there into different contracts and different companies that we sold to.
Interesting.
Is everything dehydrated? Is it just selling powders, or are you selling whole product too?
99% of what we do are powders.
So nothing into the fresh market.
We sell into the fresh market, but locally.
Okay. Farmers market.
Going way back, we
did.
did that. We picked fresh green peppers, got into the fresh green chili market with companies like Albertsons and Walmart and locally and in New Mexico.
Okay.
But we found we were just better at the red.
Yeah.
And also red is a year-long business. Green is when it's green, and the peppers are only green and ready to pick for about 3 or 4 weeks a year.
Very small
So
window.
you run through that window, and then you got to move it all out.
Yeah.
And the red can be dehydrated and kept all year, right, and processed throughout the year.
Okay, so those were the early days of how two civil engineers get together and start a dried spice company. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Different.
Yeah. We've been working, between Seco and HQO. I can imagine we were probably your first organic customer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And probably your best organic customer also.
By all means.
I think so.
Is there a question there?
So that means that they have to separate a certain farm area for organic. I've been doing this show now for a little while and learning. It's like that's a big decision for you guys, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep it separate, keep it safe, so to speak. And so obviously you see a market in that is a good value and a good part of your business now, I guess.
Yeah.
100%. And to be clear, we also sell conventional product.
Yes.
Lots of it.
Yes.
Volume wise, probably
what's that
20
split?
times
Wow.
the amount of conventional that we do organic.
Yeah.
However, organic's a nice market. and it's kind of close to home because we can control a lot of that on the home farms.
Yeah. And that's what I love about Edward's story is that it seems like his parents had organic farmland that they passed on to him that he is now farming.
They had the land.
Yep.
So let's go back 25, 30 years. Nobody was farming organic in New Mexico. Maybe California, but not in New Mexico. So what it takes is if you're farming conventionally, you have to let the land lay out for a minimum of 3 years.
Yep.
Then bring in the certification bodies and so forth, get it certified organic, and then obviously agree to farm it organic from that point on. Or you're breaking new ground.
Yeah.
That's never been farmed.
Yep.
And you have to show a history of that and prove that to get your certification.
Right.
Then you can start organic farming.
Yep. Okay.
So a little of both happened in our case.
Okay. So let's jump into some of the farming practices.
Sure.
I think there's a really interesting aspect that's often overlooked in farming, especially where you're at in very dry and desert environment, and that's water. So can you talk to us about, what is the water that's required for chilies? I don't know if if you have numbers or statistics, and talk to us about water rights. What's that water landscape where you guys are at in New Mexico?
Great question. Water's gold. That's, and it's almost becoming like that everywhere. It seems to me now. But in our area, annual rainfall is 5 to 7 inches.
Yep.
So there's not a lot of water, surface water for sure. So it is very important. Again, going back in history, 25, 30 years, everything was flood irrigated. And what that means, it's a big canal and you open up some gates and the rows are laser leveled so that they are higher on one end and lower on the other. And the water runs from high to low and you flood your crop. Lots of water. So numbers, when you're flood irrigating chili peppers, it takes about 3 acre feet per year to grow chili peppers. What an acre foot is 12 inches of water over an entire acre. Wow. And you need, so basically 36 inches of water throughout the growing season. Not all at one time, obviously.
Yeah.
But an acre foot is just that. So it takes about 3 acre feet. And that's how flood irrigation and a lot of farming, like that's how I refer to water usage. Compare and contrast, cotton, about half of that.
So about 18 inches.
1.5 acre feet.
Okay.
Pecans on the other end of it, which is a lot of pecans in our area now. Trees, all those trees you see down there.
Yeah.
In fact, New Mexico's they go back and forth with Georgia being the biggest pecan producing state in the U.S. Just depends on the year.
Okay.
But they take about 5 acre feet of water.
Whoa.
Which is a lot.
Wow.
So there's tons of it. We could have a big conversation about just pecan guys versus row croppers, they call it. Because there's a bit of that in the valley.
Fascinating. So just to, again, paint that picture, we talked about an acre being 1.3 acres is a football field. Okay. So let's just visualize a football field and then visualize 3 feet of water standing on that football field. That's how much water you need to farm an acre of chilies.
Yes.
Every acre of chilies.
You need it 3 feet high.
3 feet high of water.
Yeah.
For the length of the
right.
the
so you use an inch or two this watering in 10 to 14 days and another inch or two, that type thing. Okay. But by the time you finish the crop, that's what you actually use.
So do you guys do flood irrigation?
Not if we can help it.
Okay.
We just started farming a little bit more land at his dad's place.
Yep.
Edward's father's home farm.
Yep.
There's still some flood irrigation on that. Everything that we have, the farms that you've kind of seen around our facility, it's all drip irrigation. And we're converting Edward's father's place to drip irrigation as well.
Okay.
Much more efficient.
Okay. So do you have a number if you're using drip irrigation?
Yeah, Lucas is gonna kill me because I don't have that number.
Okay.
But he's the farm
Less
manager.
than
He would
3
know.
feet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Probably like 25%.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Wow.
It's a big difference.
Wow.
Big difference because you're spoon feeding it, right? Drip irrigation is essentially like a hose buried in the ground with little
pin pricks. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it every so often, and guess where the plants grow, where the pinpricks are.
Yep.
And so you can spoon feed nutrients to it, fertilizer, that sort of thing,
Okay.
versus just flooding a whole area with water and fertilizer
Okay.
and eat a lot of weeds. So it helps a little bit on weed control, helps on water conservation.
Okay.
It's a good deal.
So what are water rights?
So in New Mexico, I don't know other places.
Yeah.
And Zach, actually, Ogas,
Yeah.
Edward's older son,
Yeah.
is a water rights attorney. He would be the best one to ask. You know?
Okay.
So again, now that Zach's going to kill me because I probably won't get this right.
That's okay.
But in general, there's primary rights and there's secondary rights.
Okay.
So primary water rights in New Mexico are groundwater. Like you have a well, you're pumping water out of the ground on your property.
Okay.
Right. And those are either grandfathered in, like literally your grandfather had these wells and the state's allowed you to keep them, or you have to apply to the state to get permits and they only allow so many, right? Because they don't want you using up all the groundwater.
Right.
So one of the two, either you inherited it or you're going through the state and getting new licenses. It's monitored now. It didn't used to be, but it's monitored now, like your usage. There's meters on it. You have to report to the state engineer's office. That's primary water rights.
Okay.
Secondary water rights are surface water. So lakes, streams, rivers, water that's could be captured off your house. Those are secondary water rights. So in New Mexico, or at least where we're at, there's a river, the Rio Grande River, and there's a couple lakes that have been dammed and created. And so that water is let out slowly when there's enough water into the river. And then I want to say 1920 is when EBID, Elephant Butte Irrigation District. That's the lake. That's the name of it, is Elephant Butte. But the irrigation district, everything below that, which is most of where chili's farmed in southern New Mexico, you would use floodwater and they got diverted from the rivers into laterals, they call them, smaller and smaller, and then eventually into canals and ditches, and then onto your field.
Okay.
And farmers would take turns. So it would be my turn tonight and it's your turn tomorrow morning and so forth. And it would get spread around the valley. Those are secondary water rights.
Okay. What do you guys have? Do you have?
We have both.
Oh.
The secondary water rights essentially come with the land from Elephant Butte Irrigation District. So if, again, it's grandfathered in, this was always been farmed, and you get a certain amount of water based on the levels of water in the lake the year before.
Okay.
So when there's lots of water in the lake, you could use flood irrigation and grow your crop. We used to do it all the time. There's not much water in the lake anymore. I don't know if it's a cyclical thing or what's going on with the weather, we're global warming. Everybody can say what they're saying. All I know is we're getting a whole lot less water, rain, to fill up the lakes. So for the secondary water rights, they will come out and tell you, okay, you get 8 inches this year. Back to that acre foot thing, but you get 8 inches. And that's it. That's all you get. And then you have to supplement that with your primary water rights.
Okay.
So now it's kind of a combination. And many times we won't even use the secondary water, the surface water rights, or we'll transfer it you can move it, the rights to it, to part of your farm that has flood irrigation. Because you don't necessarily want to flood something that you have drip irrigation on.
Right.
Again, you get back to the weeds and all these problems, and you don't have it laser leveled typically to go from high to low because you don't need that with
Because you're on
drip
drip.
irrigation.
Okay. Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about what does farming a chili actually look like? And also I'd like to talk about what's the work in addition to just your regular farming that you have to do to maintain the organic status. Just walk us through the time frame just a little bit. We've done this episode many times on this show, is to really help customers understand just how much in advance at least we plan.
There's a ton of planning.
So typically it's beginning of the year, quarter one, January, February. You and I are talking, and we're talking numbers.
Right.
So walk us through.
Right. So let's call it January.
Yeah.
What's going on in the field is we're prepping the fields, right? Whatever crops got to be rotated, so you don't want to grow the same crop back to back to back.
Why is that? Let's talk about that.
Well, it depletes nutrients that are important to
in the soil,
that vegetable.
Okay.
Or crop actually, right? So it could be whatever it might be, peppers, and they use more of nutrient X.
Yep.
If you do it back to back to back, you're really depleting the soil of that nutrient and your yields go down. Versus maybe peppers use a lot of nutrient X,
Yep.
but you plant alfalfa and it replaces that nutrient X. And 2 years later,
It
you can
depletes
come
a
back.
different nutrient.
Yes,
Okay.
likely.
Okay.
But then you can come back and rotate
Bring your
your
peppers
crops
back. Yeah.
so that you get decent yields every time, and you're not just over farming. Like it's like tired. You know, if you want to picture it in your head, it's like
Yeah.
you just get tired doing the same thing over and over. So does the land. So does the land.
Interesting.
So January, we're getting the fields ready, right?
Yep.
The guys are prepping the fields to plant something. We've got to decide, the farm guys, Lucas and Edward, have to decide what's going where based on rotations, based on our conversations, you know, like what kind of volumes are we looking at, what types of peppers if we're going to grow. On the farms, we grow several things. We grow wheat, we grow cotton, we grow peppers, some conventional, some organic,
Okay.
onions.
So when are you planting into the ground?
So March, April,
Okay.
depends on the weather a bit. Good old Mother Nature.
Yep.
If we plant too soon, it's too cold, and the crop will dampen off. They call it. It'll kind of get up, and it'll just sit there and like freeze. And then you get a very bad stand. What I mean by stand, like the number of plants is much less than you want per acre.
I see.
But typically March or April, and then seed comes up 6 weeks or so. You're going back in there, and there's a whole hoeing process, maintaining the field with weeds, cultivation with farm equipment, tractors, and so forth. Obviously, watering, fertilization, and that goes on from, call it March through October, September,
Just constantly
October.
maintaining the fields.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
What's the biggest difference in that maintenance of a field, an organic field versus a conventional field?
Right. It's significant. Cost-wise, number one, to be honest, it costs a whole lot more to grow
Why is that?
organic per acre. Well, it's labor intensive
Okay.
versus machines or chemicals.
Chemicals.
I can spray Roundup on a conventional field, and I'll have to put a hand crew in there of labor, actual people, to hoe the field.
Yep. So pulling for weeds, excuse me.
Yeah, you're hoeing it by hand with hose. And so the reason you're doing that is you don't want competition for the plant that you want.
The
you
nutrients.
want the pepper, exactly, the water, the nutrients. You got the weeds next to it. They're sucking up stuff too.
Yep.
So you've got to keep that down, but it takes more labor. You can't use the same chemicals, obviously.
Yep.
That there are fertilizers and there are herbicides,
Yeah.
pesticides. Now, not in the typical sense like you're thinking, but that are NOP, like certified organic, that you can use.
Yep.
Different methods, different things you can apply to the plants and so forth. But it's still farming. It's still a pepper. It just takes more hand labor is what it really comes down to.
More TLC.
On the organic side. Also, the organic fertilizers work, right? They're nitrogen based or phosphorus or whatever you're looking for. There are those things. We put out fish oil. We've put out bat guano. Now, are they as effective as these chemicals for conventional stuff that have been perfected over the last 100 years?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So you generally get better yields pound for pound, acre for acre with a conventional field.
Sure.
So your yields are going to be a little less, maybe a third less if you're a good farmer with the organic material, and it's going to cost you more just on the hand labor.
Yeah. So this is where you see that delta between organic and conventional pricing.
Yes.
Is because you're working harder, you're applying more labor, and you're getting a lower yield.
Correct.
So
it's math, simple math,
it's
right?
math. It's agribusiness. So. All right. So we're in the fields. Chilies are growing. Chili's a long crop.
Right.
So we're talking March to when's harvest?
About October.
Okay.
When it's fully ripe.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean you're actually harvesting in October. It kind of depends on the variety. Certain things you want to harvest, certain peppers you want to harvest before it freezes. A frost actually does freeze in New Mexico, typically around Halloween.
Okay.
So if you are growing, which we grow a lot of, organic habanero, or a thick-walled pepper, ancho, thick-walled. When I be the actual thickness
Very robust
of the wall of the pepper.
Okay.
If it freezes, the freeze will bust those little cells. They're little obviously
Yeah.
plant cells,
Yeah.
and it'll bust the cells and break that pod down, and literally water will seep out of the pod, thereby lowering your yield, because you just broke all the little, you just broke a bunch of the cell walls. So your weight is part of your yield is just sitting there on the ground, like it's gone.
Just drained
So
out.
there's certain peppers you want to get in and do it before the freeze. Certain ones doesn't matter. Paprika, thin-walled peppers, you can wait till after the freeze. And actually, you kind of want to wait till after the freeze, because the freeze helps you terminate the plant. And then good old Mother Nature starts drying down some things for you, so that it doesn't cost you a fortune to dry it down.
Okay. So thick wall harvesting before
Early.
the freeze, before Halloween.
Yep.
Thin wall can wait until after
Correct.
Halloween.
Correct,
Interesting.
depending on the varieties.
Okay. All right. So your harvest. So now you have whole fresh peppers. So let's talk about, fresh versus dried, because Seco, dry. And the dehydration process. And so can you talk to us about what kind of percentage water, moisture are you driving off when you dehydrate? And then talk to us about what are the different dehydration methods and what you guys use.
Okay. So just methods real quick. There's basically two.
Okay.
There's a belt dryer, which it's kind of like a big pizza oven,
Okay.
but 100 feet long with an 8-foot wide stainless steel belt. If you've been to a pizza restaurant where they use belts and they stick it in one end and it comes out the other, you uncooked and it comes out cooked.
Okay.
That's dumbing it down a bit, but that's essentially what a belt dehydrator is.
Okay.
They work great with thin-walled peppers. Forced air tunnels are more the original, going back like to the 60s and 70s when people started putting in forced air tunnels. That's they're trays. So they're big trays, call it, like 3 feet wide by 6 feet long. And they're stacked on top of each other.
Okay.
And then they go into a tunnel that's literally, 8-10 feet wide. The trays can just get in there, right?
Yeah.
And you slide them in.
Yeah.
And then there's a huge burner, natural gas burner, blowing air across that material down this tunnel.
Oh.
And doors are closed on both ends.
Okay.
So it's just like it's a furnace. It's an oven, right? But they call it forced air natural gas dehydration.
Okay.
That works great with thick walled chilies.
Okay.
Because it tends to dry, be more efficient drying those down. Old school, new school. There's advantages to both of them.
Sure.
We have both.
Okay.
We have one, the facility that you've been to in Barino, that's forced air tunnels.
Yep.
We have another facility in Artesia, New Mexico, that's a belt dehydrator. Okay. So depending on varieties, we can play with how we want to dehydrate
So
them.
you do both.
Dry downs. So thick walled chilies like jalapeno, fresh jalapeno, the dry down it's a ratio for us. We're going to call it 13-1. What that means is you bring me in 13 pounds of fresh jalapeno. When it's dried, I'm going to end up with 1 pound.
1 pound.
So that's in our industry, that's a big dry down, 13-1.
Yep.
And again, it depends on the type of chili.
Yep.
The later you go, right, Mother Nature starts to dry things out. Like we were saying, some of these paprikas and so forth. You get, like in November, it'll be the ratio of dry down ratio will be about 6-1. In December, it's like 4-1.
Because
Mother
the
Nature
chili has already drawn
on
off some of the moisture on the plant.
on the plant.
Okay.
Yep. And it's a common question. It's a great question. Like what's the moisture in this? Well, you tell me what time of year it is and I'll tell you, what type of moisture there is in there. We are typically drying down to about 5 or 6% moisture content because that's the point when we can powder it well.
Yep. And that's kind of the irony of this whole conversation as we began this talking about water rights. And you said water is gold.
Definitely.
Right. And you need water and you have to have 3, acre feet. And so that's a lot of water to grow these crops. And then at the end of the story, you're like, now I got to drive off all the water that I worked so hard to put in.
Exactly.
So 5% or less is typical of chilies.
Right in there. And that's us. That's most processing milling facilities.
Okay.
You want it about 5 or 6%. That doesn't mean it stays at that.
Right.
Because to mill it, and if you can imagine, like if it's leathery, if there's something leather and you try to put it in your blender, it's hard to chop it up.
Not going to happen.
But if it's crackling dry, it
Powders
powders easier.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't mean it remains at 5%, because many times, if you look at the specs that we have between ourselves, the moisture content will be 10% or 12%.
Yeah.
So we can mill it, powder it, get it to a size specification that is good for everybody.
Yeah.
But when you dry something, it's again, it's just like cooking your oven. You dry it out, it changes the color. So you can add water back in to 7 or 8 or 9%, 10%, and bring some of that color back for visual.
I've heard about this from somebody else in the industry saying that when you're milling, you have to add moisture
We add
back
water.
into it.
Yeah, after you powder it, then it goes into a steam jacket, a big like 5,000 pound mixer blender.
Yep.
And that's when you can add water back into it.
Okay. And is that your steam sterilization process as well?
No.
Okay.
So that's a blending, milling first, then blending.
Okay.
And when I say blending, we could run one pepper, like many things that we produce for HQ, or it's organic ancho, one pepper.
Yep.
There's no blending per se in that.
Okay.
But sometimes we produce organic red chili ground.
Yep.
Now that has to meet a certain color and a certain spec. It could be 2 or 3 different types of peppers, varieties, to get that color and the spec and the taste that we want.
Yep. So that red chili ground is really a blend of several different capsicum atoms, like your typical red chilies, and you're matching for both surface color, or what we would call asta, as well as a Scoville heat unit.
Correct.
And so you're working to hit that spec on both ends.
Correct. Right. So it becomes, and I say it, and the guys make fun of me at work because they've heard me say it 1,000 times. It becomes soup, if you can imagine that, and not in the real sense, but when you're making soup, you've got the base, whatever that pepper might be. But I need a little bit of this because this one has a great smoky taste or a good color. So I take a little bit of that, and I take a little bit of that, and a little bit of that, and that becomes your blend to match what we were saying: surface color, taste, aroma, heat units, and so forth. So there's both, but when I say blending, that's what I mean by blending. And then once we have that down, and the ideas, and it's hard to do over and over, but you want to be consistent, right? When I sell you 1 pound of red chili ground, you want it to look like it the last time I did it.
Yep.
It's too different, then people start going, hey, what's going on with my stuff?
Right.
That's another conversation to be had with organics, because there's not that much volume. So it's difficult. It's much more difficult, back to kind of like, why is it harder to grow organics? That's part of it in the processing end, is it's more difficult to have that consistent match year over year, crop after crop, because there's not a lot of volume for me to make soup out of.
Yeah.
The color's not so good this year on this pepper.
You can mix and match.
Oh, I don't have so much of that available in organic, just by the nature of volumes and what's actually grown.
Interesting.
How does one measure a Scoville unit?
So it used to be a long time ago, it was literally like a taste test, and I'm pretty good at it. Yeah. I mean, from doing it for 30 years or whatever, but there's a machine called an HPLC. And again,
high pressure liquid chromatography.
You got me. Like, again, Martine, my lab guy, should be answering this question, but there's a machine that now is common in the industry, and we can all compare, and it's apples to apples.
Yeah. So you can send it to a lab, they'll analyze it, and they'll give you a report that says this many Scoville heat units, SHU.
Right.
But are you guys doing that on site, or are you sending it to a lab to get them tested?
Both.
Yeah, both.
So we have that machine on site, helps us determine, especially in blends, what's going on. But also when we send out a product, after it's steam sterilized, it's finished, ready to eat product, I have to send it with what's called a COA. And the COA will have the heat units on it. So I've got to come up with those somewhere. Yeah. And that could be internally or externally. It depends on the customer, honestly, because some people want all third-party labs, an exterior lab. They don't want my, the internal person that processed it to give the lab result. Yeah. Okay.
A little bit of checks and balances going on.
Yep.
I saw a video that was talking about, in this particular video, it was jalapenos. And they were saying that the curved jalapenos are hotter than just straight jalapenos, because the curve indicates that at some point it went through some water or heat distress.
Okay.
And that distress creates a spicier chili.
Okay.
Have you seen any truth to that?
The curved thing, no.
Okay.
But I can verify, yes. As we grow peppers, you can grow the exact same variety of pepper, and it just happens. It's like I would assume a defense mechanism in the plant itself.
Yeah.
As it's stressed, it does produce more capsaicin.
Yeah.
So, and that's across most peppers. So curved, I don't know, but if there's water stress, wind stress, heat stress, that will tend to be a hotter pepper than one that was grown in the field next to it that didn't have that.
Interesting.
It's a analogy for life.
Yeah.
I think me thinks that the TikTok person was full of crap.
You think it was full of baloney?
Yeah, I think because she's just like, oh, did you know it's known and everything? But no, this is the guy.
This is the guy. That's why I was like,
They
I want to
would
check
know
this.
if it was that if the curved ones are hotter.
Yeah.
That's something that I think.
You would know after doing it for decades.
Yeah, we catch some shit on this podcast sometimes
yeah.
for saying things or not saying things, and people are just like, will give us stuff on the comments, right? And
Yeah.
so and so yeah, we need to give it back to this lady who was on that show because right.
But I buy off in the stress and the heat levels and affecting capsaicin levels for sure.
So after it's blended, homogenized, you're getting uniformity. Last step, I'm assuming, is steam sterilization.
Correct.
Okay. So you guys do steam sterilization in-house.
Yes, sir.
Super important.
Yep.
You're achieving a 5-log kill.
Yes.
So we always appreciate that at HQO. And then you're testing final lots, accredited third-party labs outside for obviously pathogens and all the other microbial data.
Right. And the 5-log goes back to it's an FDA standard. That's the minimum.
Yep.
So we actually achieve higher log reduction than that with the machines, but that's the minimum. Everybody who has a sterilizer or is trying to treat product, that's the FDA standard for pathogens, specifically salmonella.
Yep.
So that's what's required for that pathogen. If you're talking just general TPC, total plate count, or aerobic plate counts for bacteria, it's not a 5-log reduction.
Correct.
It's less than that.
Yep.
Because they're harder to kill than salmonella and E. coli and listeria. For whatever reason, those things die off much easier than other types of bacteria.
Okay. In terms of storage and shipping, it's very common with chilies, or what we call reds, to cold storage. Why the need for the cold storage?
Right. So once a chili's processed and powdered, it'll go through our steam sterilization system, goes through magnets and metal detectors, and it's boxed for us in a 50-pound box typically, or 50-pound bag. At that point, it's finished product. It's ready to go. It's sealed up. On our side, it gets shipped out to you guys or customer that needs it. Right, picking it up in a truck, 2,000 pounds on a pallet, moving out. The question of cold storage is it's time and longevity and reducing oxidation in it. A powder, any powder will oxidize quicker than, well, in our world, a flake.
Yeah,
but a
because
smaller
you have way more surface
area. Exactly. Yeah. So once it's powdered, it will tend to denature quicker. And so you're trying to prolong that with cold storage. And there's different temperatures and so forth that it can be held at. It gives you a different shelf life.
Yeah. Also preserves color.
Yes, absolutely. Back to oxidation.
Yep.
But the color will fade.
Yep.
With oxidation.
Yep. Yeah. And oxidation can also impact rancidity.
Yes.
So we've seen a big problem with rancidity out of the last 2 years out of India, specifically on cayennes. And we're seeing rancidity, cause, product to spoil much quicker than expected.
I would say if I was going to throw you a bone, check out the seed content and the oil.
Exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said.
That tends to get rancid faster. Than just straight powder, like the meat of the pepper.
So what I think my hypothesis of what we're seeing is, so this was in cayennes, and so we'll buy 3 different levels of cayenne, so like a mild, medium, and a hot. So you're looking at a 20 to 30 then a 30 to 40, and a 50 plus SHU. And last 2 years out of India, what we were seeing is because of aflatoxins, they couldn't get the hotter cayennes.
Okay.
And so we were consistently getting a 20 to 30 cayenne, but we couldn't get anything hotter. And then we got 1 or 2 shipments of the hotter stuff, and we were finding that it was turning rancid on us very quickly. It was like a ticking time bomb. It would be fine, bad. And so as my dad, as a PhD in plant pathology, he went to India and did the research. And, this is why they say the spice industry is a tough industry, because there's a lot of fraud that happens. And that was my hypothesis, was that they were adding the seeds, which have the capsaicin, right, the spicy component, back in, so that you can grind up seeds and add it back into the cayenne to boost your SHU content. But in so doing, the seeds are where the oils are. Anytime you have oil, you are subject to rancidity.
Right. Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really does.
So, but it takes a lot of know-how. And so what we start doing at HQO is we started testing peroxide values.
Okay.
And so peroxide values will be an indicator of rancidity. So too high in peroxide, it's going to go rancid quicker.
I just learned something. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
OG.
OG Spice guy. So, Michael, we've seen a lot of issues with bell peppers out of China. Last couple of years, we buy a lot of bell peppers. And our understanding is that there's very heavy rainfall in northern China where bell peppers are grown.
Okay.
And about 40 to 50% of bell pepper plots were severely waterlogged. And so we're seeing bell pepper prices triple, in some cases quadruple. And so that's when I came to you guys and said, hey, you grow chili peppers. Bell pepper's a chili pepper.
Sure.
Can you grow it? And you guys said?
Yes. Yeah. Now, it's not typically grown in New Mexico.
Okay.
It's more of a fresh market pepper generally, where we're more on the dehydrated side.
Right.
So there's lots of bell pepper, as you know, grown in Mexico, conventional. I'm not so sure about the organic side, but it's typically a fresh market pepper.
Okay.
But we're going to dehydrate it.
Yep.
Right. We're gonna powder it, flake it for you guys.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it's a capsicum annuum.
Capsicum. Yep.
So it's in the general class of peppers that we grow.
Yep.
And we got seed. We sent it to the greenhouse.
And I think this is, I want to talk a little bit about our partnership and just overall friendship between the two businesses, and really doing this entire thing on a handshake deal.
Yeah.
There's no documents, there's no papers, there's no lawyers, most importantly, no lawyers involved. And to say it's based on trust. And to say, your partner Edward called me up and said, hey, will you buy the organic seed? If you buy the organic seed, I'll raise the babies. And I said, deal.
Yeah.
And that organic seed, so 10 acres is what you guys gave us.
I believe, and they're actually transplanting right now.
Okay.
They were last week. I think they'll finish this week. So we'll get the acres down. But about 10, 12 acres.
12 acres, which is not small. Think 12 football fields that they're growing on a test for us.
Yeah.
And it was worked out to be about 80,000 plants. So HQO bought 80,000 seeds, and you can't just go and buy seed. You have to go to a seed supplier. It has to be certified organic. It's got to be the right variety. So we bought the seeds. The seeds were about $15,000 for seed.
Yeah.
But that's nothing compared to the cost that you guys are about to put into it to, grow them, start them in a greenhouse, transplant them in the fields, and then, weeding, hoeing, checking it throughout the entire season. So here we are in April.
Right.
We want to come out and do an episode.
It's quite a long-term business deal for HQO. Like they are predicting, hey, it's a tough market. We need it in a different way.
Yep.
But if it goes well, it might be a new product, right? It's a win-win. And it's like to have people actually agriculturally making stuff for you.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And
these
you're the
seed
guy
projects,
that gets it.
I think are a great testament to partnership, and to say, hey, you guys weren't doing bell pepper before. We need bell pepper. So let's partner, grow the business together. And so, I've been talking to some of our customers and saying, hey, we got this project working in New Mexico. It's great. And the thing that I love about our partnership is I can be transparent with my customers. I can say, yeah, this is the guy right here. This is, Seco Spice. And I have zero concerns of my customers going to him and saying, hey, let's work together and not work with HQ because he won't do it.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be what this is. Even these conferences are about when you see each other every year too, and it's only a few people that are coming here to the studio.
You know this, but you can't be around for 30 years if you do that to people.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
You might win 1 year. But sooner or later, karma's going to get you. The world's going to get you, and it doesn't work out. It just doesn't. But there's plenty of that in the industry.
It is. It happens all the time. So that's why I've always appreciated our relationship and being able to partner together. So before we go, give me a couple of examples. I think this is super cool about the chili industry is talk to me about some chilies that are really, just the name of a different chili. So let's take a chipotle, I think is a great example. A chipotle is a smoked jalapeno. So take a regular jalapeno. Dry it over a smoked, fire, and you get a chipotle.
Correct.
Okay. You have some other examples that we can tantalize Rob with?
We grow a lot of habanero, which is kind of, these are specialty items
I love
that are
habanero,
typically
by the way.
not grown in the U.S. I don't know of, and maybe somebody could correct me, but I don't know of anybody else domestically.
It's a Caribbean, Jamaican,
yes.
Trinidadian, West Indies cuisine uses a lot of habanero Scotch bonnets as well.
Yeah, and that's where all those originated. Correct, like the seeds just in the Caribbean. It's mainly grown now habanero in southern Mexico.
Ah, okay.
It's conventionally wise.
Okay.
But we're doing it in New Mexico.
Okay.
On our farms.
Okay.
That we can keep an eye on, because you talk about seed costs.
Yeah.
Just specialty peppers, habanero. There's some other ones, Moruga scorpion, which it's back to Scoville heat units, and we were kind of talking about this.
Yeah. What's a scorpion at?
Scorpion's around 700,000 to 800,000. A habanero is about 200,000.
Okay.
So 3 to 4 times hotter than a habanero.
Wow.
It's approaching kind of like that ghost pepper type thing that everybody seems to know what a ghost pepper is.
I was going to say ghost pepper, and I was just watching a Top Chef episode that was like back a few months ago, and they did a whole kind of chili episode and educated us on the difference. And ghost pepper up to, I don't know, is that the hottest one?
Right? It's over a
There's
million.
one other one like
Carolina Reaper, supposedly on record.
Carolina Reaper.
We've grown that. We couldn't get the yields out of it. It wasn't economically viable. We couldn't produce enough per acre. But we've done all those. And why? I have to give Edward credit on a lot of these things, like the super hots, the bell peppers. It's not really my part of the business, because I'm like Mr. Safe, I want to run 3 million pounds and I want to do it right and not get any of us in trouble, and you're happy and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Where Edward is more the farmer, and he's like, let's roll.
Yeah.
Give me a shot, man. I got a couple acres. We'll throw it in.
Yeah.
And let's try it. And that's how we got started on the habanero and the scorpion. And now we're growing a lot of it. And like I said, I think we're the only ones in the U.S. doing it.
Yeah. That's great.
Can we do a genetic pepper someday? Like if the show gets really popular and we go, hey, we want to take an acre or two and just make some sort of genetically hybrided.
It's done all
pepper.
the time.
Yeah.
In fact, the scorpion pepper that we have is.
Yeah, that's how they get a lot of these peppers.
Really?
They're hybrids. They're crossbred.
We need to think of a flavor of some sort that we can.
So crossbreeding is one thing. Genetically modified is a different. So genetically modified
we don't want to go there.
Not a general. You can't do that.
No, but breeding, just
hybridization.
Just like the,
breeding.
Old school genetics. Breeding pea plants, or like you learned back
Wendell's
in college.
pea plant. Yeah,
that's done all the time. All the time, right?
Yeah.
Because you always you see 10 plants in the field, and there's one that you go, wow.
Yeah.
It's right here with these, and this one has this on it.
Yeah.
Well, there's got to be something a little different about that one. So let's take the seed from that one.
Yeah.
And we'll grow them next year, and we'll see if we can get the same thing.
Yeah.
And on and on.
Yeah.
Love it.
Whether you're sourcing ingredients or just cooking at home, hopefully this gives you a new appreciation for what goes into that chili powder or bell pepper. We've talked about how flavor is deeply tied to origin, how small decisions in irrigation or drying can change the final product, and why consistency is one of the hardest things to achieve year after year. And so on the bell pepper side, it's a great example of how supply chains have to adapt quickly, whether it's due to weather, disruptions halfway across the world, or shifting demand here at home. Thanks for tuning in to the OG Spice Guy Show. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who loves food, flavor, or business behind it. And we'll see you next time as we keep exploring the world's boldest ingredients.
The OG Spice Guy Show is produced and recorded by Galaxy Media in Los Angeles, California, in association with High Quality Organics, America's leading provider of organic spices. Executive producers are Jonathan Raju and Rob Clyde. Today's episode was produced by Rob Clyde and Max Flora. It was engineered and edited by Drew Unser. Graphics by Michelle Esteva. Web and SEO by Rebecca McDonald. And social media by Bethany Guerrero. You can DM and follow us on all platforms and socials at OG Spice Guy.